Hello and welcome back to the Will I Vike It podcast. My name's Craig and today my guest is Kai from Heilung and particularly for today Old Norse Clothing, your new clothing brand.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show. So I thought we'd start off a bit talking about your background because people often ask me how I got started and how I got into things, and I think it's good for people to kind of know where to start if they're looking at getting into that kind of thing. So with your artwork and your tattooing, how did you first become a tattoo artist?
Well, of course, I always dreamed about it, becoming a tattoo artist, because I was drawing already since my early childhood. But back then, in the last millennium, it was not that easy because like internet, as a matter of fact, didn't really exist in that style as today. And also the tattoo industry was ruled by the biker gangs, more or less, right?
Yeah.
And I had a fucked up tattoo on my left arm and I always wanted to get it redone. And at some point, funny enough, I was actually getting a shirt printed for me and my friend.
Yeah.
And I had to wait until that shirt was done. And I saw that little tattoo shop while I was strolling around the city and waiting for the shirt. And I thought, oh, let's check it out. And in there was a lady, Astrid Köpfler. And we chatted a little bit and she said that she would happily redo my tattoo. And I had my backpack on me when I got into the first appointment. And that was an old German army backpack. And it was, with markers, I did all the my drawings on there, all the Celtic and Viking knotwork. And when she saw that backpack, she was like, wow, where did you get that from? And I said, I made it myself. And like, she more or less offered me to become her apprentice right there, right then. And as I said, that was at that time, there was no way that you just could get a tattoo machine or whatever. You had to be recommended by a professional tattoo artist to the suppliers and everything. And basically taking an apprenticeship was the only way to become a proper tattoo artist. And when I realized, okay, that is my chance now, I of course took it, right? Yeah. And then from there it started picking up. Right? So
did you start off, was your interest originally in the artwork itself, or did you actually have an aim that you wanted to do tattoos?
The thing is like that, you couldn't really have the aim because like, especially in the area where I'm coming from, right? You needed an invitation. You needed to be lucky to, so you couldn't just decide I become a tattoo artist. That was just not the thing, because if you would over some weird channels gotten a tattoo machine and started at home, at some point some nasty guys with leather vests and big motorcycles would knock at your door and just erase you. Yeah. So I was dreaming about it. I was hoping that it would happen at some point, maybe, but I didn't expect it. And when it happened, I was really, really lucky. But of course, the interest in Nordic, Celtic, Germanic art was there since I'm a teenager.
Yeah, so when did you decide that it was time to give up tattooing and move into clothing?
Well, I gave up tattooing in 2022, and it was a little bit weird because like in 2020 already I was in Peru, and we were with the Shipibo, native people from Peru, and it was shamans there, and we had ayahuasca sessions, and in these ayahuasca sessions I received the information that it would be time for me to stop tattooing. And in 2020 I was full blown working all the time. If I wasn't out with Heilung, I was tattooing, and it seemed very, very, very abstract for me to do that, to actually stop tattooing. But funny enough, I came home from Peru, and not even a month later, Corona happened, lockdown happened, and I found myself banned from tattooing for a month. Yeah. And then I already thought, okay, something is going on, which is like really, really weird. But it still took a time until I was ready to like finally accept it. And give away what was defining me as a person, or a big part of it anyway, right?
Yeah.
But in 2022, I really reached a point where I was like, okay, this cannot go on as it does, and then I finally decided to put the needle down. And at that time, Old Norse, the clothing brand, was already in pre-work. You know, like
yeah.
I already handed in designs. There was already, the production was going on. My partner already did a lot of digital work because I was not really skilled in digital drawing at that time. I was still working with paper only, and so it all flew naturally and organically into each other.
So with all your work from the tattoo into the clothing, and then to Heilung itself, there's always been some kind of inspiration, I feel, from history. So where did your love of history start?
That already started in my childhood, I would say. I grew up in a very religious family, in a very Christian religious family. And it was a very strict form of Christianity. And I grew up without TV. But my parents, they provided us kids with a lot of books. Also books that were probably above our age limit. And one of my favorite books, I still have it, was The Last Unsolved Mysteries of This Planet. And there was a lot of historical stuff in there, and pictures of mummies. And already there, before I could even read letters, I went through pictures of mummies with tattoos and, you know, like graves where people don't know how they constructed it back in the Stone Age and all that kind of stuff. And of course, then when I got older, I realized, okay, that's my ancestors. And the stone circle where I used to play as a child was set up 2,500 years ago, something like that. And that already as a child I realized that there was something in the soil that was kind of talking to me, or whatever. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. Did that conflict with that Christian upbringing? So how did your parents react to that?
Yeah, like that was kind of okay. I think I was always a child that asked a lot of questions. And but I think like when later on heavy metal and especially the black metal came into my life, that had much more conflict potential.
Really interesting that you played at a stone circle, because I grew up near Avebury.
Yeah.
Never went there till I was an adult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And it doesn't seem to be something that schools took trips to or anything. And you'd think something that was a 20-minute bus ride away, you'd think they'd be teaching this to the kids, but doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same in my school years or my kindergarten years. The stone circle I'm referring to is like a 20 minutes walk from my house, from the house where I grew up. So that is like, you know, kids are there all the time, right? Yeah. And like there's like local fairy tales around it and stuff like that, but it's nothing, you know, people who live in the area don't think big about it, right? Yeah. That's just, you know, that's just that weird circle. It was always there, you know, and like everyone is happy that the forest is protected there and no one cuts it down, and they can take a walk with the dogs there, and you know, like you have your, because you're also still allowed to make fire in the circle, so the teenagers go there and have their first beer and their first smoke, and you know, go in the forest and have their first love experiences, stuff like that. You know, like
wow.
It's just normal, place. You know. No one thinks big about it. There's like people like me that actually really dig down in the history and realize, okay, that was probably Celtic people who were stamped by the Romans as Germanic, and like really get in all the details. There is not many that really go there. Apart from that area is not very densely populated and very Christian. So,
what made you decide originally to start Heilung, and did you ever imagine it would become as big as it is?
Well, what made me decide to start Heilung, I wouldn't even call it a conscious decision as such. Like as I said, I grew up in Germany, and in 2009, 2010 I moved up to Denmark, and I was always writing poetry and everything, and like doing all the reenactors markets and like medieval markets, Viking markets, and in the evening in the campfire, I recited poems and stuff like that, and as people just do, you know. And then when I was gone, my associates, my friends from Germany, they were like, "Oh, Kai, we miss you on the campfire and everything. Don't you want to record like your poems, and then we can at least like listen to it?" And I was like, "Okay, like okay." I have a friend in Denmark, Christopher, who is a music producer, and so at some point I asked him, "Hey, can I just come by and like record a couple of poems?" And then he was like, "Yeah, come by, and you make me a tattoo for it," and like, you know, and then I started reciting a poem, and of course he's a music producer, so at some point he asked me if I could sing too, and like from there on it just started evolving. And at some point we had the album, the first album, Ofnir, was there, and then at some point it was also like, okay, like now we made an album, and under what name shall it go? And of course it couldn't go under the name Kai, because it was not just me, it was him there as well, contributing with sounds, and his girlfriend Maria also like sang onto it, because it was very playful, you know. We were just hanging out in the evening, you know, sitting together, having a beer, having a smoke, you know, pressing record here and there, and like being enthusiastic about it, laughing a lot, you know. And then suddenly there was this album, and it needed a name, you know. And as I said before, I work a lot with shamanism, meditation and everything, and that also went in there a lot, you know. That's because that was my songs, you know, like whenever I was singing, that wasn't like really like in a regular band context, that was always healing songs, and they ended, of course, also ended in the Ofnir album. And then I took a meditation session, or a shamanic journey session, however you want to call it, and their information was very, very clear. Call it Heilung. And the two others also, when I came and said, okay, this is supposed to be called Heilung, they were like, yeah, okay, let's go with it. And we put it out on YouTube, not expecting anything, you know. It was just a fun project, and but as soon as it got out there on YouTube, people went like completely bananas on it, and it got a lot of clicks, and they were like, when are you playing live, and we were like, but we were not intending to play live, but then it's just
it's quite a big leap, isn't it, because the amount of instruments and bones and things that you use in a performance to then bring that to a stage show, I imagine it's quite a big another leap again to actually pull that off.
It was, because like at the moment we decided, okay, we're gonna play live, we're going to do it. It was basically, you know, you looked at a huge amount of work that was like ridiculous. That was really ridiculous, because like it was the three of us making the music, but in order to perform it, you know, you can't just like drum something, record it, and stack it up, and you can't do that on stage. You need more drummers, and like the choir also, we needed to form a choir, and like, well, how are we going to look, you know, like, and also questions, do we talk to the public or not, all that kind of stuff, you know. And at some point we said, okay, like we're gonna take a year, like a full-on year, and then we play live. And in that year we find all the people, we create all the costumes, or like the regalia and all of that, and we prepare the whole ritual as it is. And then of course we got a really nice offer from Castlefest to do our first gig ever as a headliner gig. Of course, then you also need to, like, you know, honor that gift, and bring up something nice, bring up something deep. And
it was a hell of a performance.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Definitely. So I suppose sort of linked to that as well is, so if you started off as writing poems and then that became Heilung, I don't know if this even makes sense, but when did you first experience Heilung? So was there a point when Christopher played something back to you and you went, hang on a minute, this is...
Yeah, I had very, very strong, and I still have them, disassociation moments.
Yeah.
Because very often when I record and when I sing, I go into a trance state. That means sometimes I also don't remember. Like, I hear it later, what Christopher recorded, but I'm so far out that I don't even remember what I was singing. So, and then hearing it again is very, very weird for me. After a while, I get used to it and everything. But for example, the song Traust, it starts out with this beep, 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 beep. And that was recorded, like Christopher was recording me for, I don't have a clue, half an hour, 3/4 an hour, when I went really into like ecstatic trance condition. And at some point I was shaking, my whole body was shaking, and also my jaw was shaking. And when I tried to sing, it was this like, and of course he loved that little bit so much, you know, that he looped it in the song. And then later on, I had to learn how to do it, or we had to
that
learn.
Must be hard to recreate that again.
It took a while. It really took a while, also because it was looped to get the breathing technique to it. But that's all is love, you know, it's pure love.
So I was going to ask if you had any previous experience with playing music or in bands, but I guess if it came from the poetry and that performance.
Not really in bands. Like as I said before, like I work with shamanism now for 25, 27 years, something like that. And of course, music or sounds, drumming is a very, very big part of it, like healing songs, or like, you know, like bringing rhythms that, or like make rhythms that bring people into trance. So a muted shaman is an impotent shaman. So like the sound, rhythms was always part of what I was doing, but I used to do that in a very, very small, secluded circle, hidden in the forest, you know, and like I would never have thought that the songs that I received already basically as a teenager in these trance conditions, that anyone would be interested in it, you know. Sure. But the stuff, especially the stuff on Ofnir, is filled with songs that I received when I was out in the forest for many, many days and didn't eat and was in these weird conditions. And
that was something else I was going to ask you about, was your fasting, because I think I heard it when you did your interview at Midgardsblot, and I think Christopher mentioned that you often go and fast. And that's part of the ritual, and obviously this is mostly a food-based podcast. So,
okay.
So I was interested to hear about that process.
Yes, the opening, the first piece that we play or that we perform when we're out is a piece that I received on one of my very first retreats, and that was a zero retreat, so like no food whatsoever, only water, and that was 9 days. I was nine days on my own, and nowadays, of course, life got very, very busy, so it's sometimes a bit challenging to do it. But if it is possible for me, I retreat for something around a month, and in that point, or in that time, I'm not going on complete zero. I go on 1 to 3 handsful of very basic food. That means there will be no oils, no spices, no salt, and all that. No sugar, of course, and there will also be no TV and no mobile phone and everything. Just completely. But that also leads to very, very weird conditions. Like you get something in between very sick and very high, because of course at some point your blood sugar level is like cellar, and that is also the point where the physical activities go down a lot, and I allow myself to adapt to the natural rhythms, meaning I usually do that in winter, meaning when the sun goes down and you live without electricity and without screens, within a couple of days the sun goes down, and I'm like, okay, it's time to like just lay down and don't do anything. But it is also that is where a lot of songwriting happens, where a lot of like of course I allow myself a drawing, stuff to draw, stuff to write diary physically, and but also because I'm alone and in these conditions, I received very early the suggestions from people that work with shamanism: do not talk to yourself, don't. That means I'm also limited to singing or praying at that time, and that's naturally that is where the songs are coming. Yeah,
is there a reason for not talking to yourself and singing's okay?
You go mad.
Okay.
You go properly mad if you do this split physically. Like there might be other spiritual lines that maybe have other ideas about it.
Yeah.
But that is, I experience that as very, very healthy not to do so. It's very tempting because like the silence can get very loud.
I'd imagine in the darkness as well.
Yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah, so I guess linked to that as well, that I've heard of people feeling like they've received some kind of healing from Heilung. People that find their anxiety lessens when they listen to it. I think I saw somewhere someone said their tinnitus was reduced when they listened to the music. Did you ever expect the music to have that effect on people?
I did not expect the music in the regular meaning of the word to do that, but the intention from the start, as I said, like the whole thing roots into shamanic work, and that is also the word Heilung means healing, or in German. That is, you know, I lined up to do that, and the expression, everything I do in Heilung has that intention. You know, of course, nowadays Heilung is a big group with a lot of people attached to it. Other people might have different intentions, but my intention is always to bring healing to the people. However, the individual interprets healing, or what needs to be healed within the individual, that is totally not up to me. But the concept of getting healthy, getting whole again, that is what I see myself as my reason to live, basically, to bring that to people, to support people in their well-being. And I experience it quite often, also today. Today there was a man that really had severe autism, and came up here, and like that was a huge step for him, and he overcame it. Like he was here, and he greeted me, and he was very happy that he did it, and very proud. So yeah, something apparently works there.
I guess, does that inspire you to continue making more music because of the positive?
For sure, because like I know that a lot of people are dreaming about playing in big bands and like be out there, but it can be, you know, like with great success there also comes great work and great responsibility and great other things that are not so pleasant. So there is sometimes moments where I'm thinking, okay, what the fuck, you know. But when stuff like that, when you get feedback like that, that really resets you and like really reminds you, okay, this is why we do it, and it is good, you know. It's good karma yoga, as they say in India.
Should we go through the questions that I ask everybody?
Let's go.
Yeah. So if you had an unlimited budget, what would be your dream project?
Unlimited budget, but I have unlimited budget. No, I'm kidding. The dream project would be to do what we do with Heilung, but really fulfilling the original vision. And in the beginning, we were dreaming about when you see us today, we are performing linear. So there's the crowd, there's a line, and then there is the band or the project performing the ritual. But of course, that is not how you would perform a ritual back in the old days. A ritual would take place in a circular setting with something happening in the middle and a lot of people around that are also involved in the ritual at some point with something or with sounds even. But of course, to do that, amplify it with all of that, including animals and everything, if you just start bringing that topic up to the booking agency or whoever, you know, it's just not realistic by budget and whatever. And if I would have an unlimited budget, I would do that.
I think I might have mentioned it on an old episode, but I once watched a band from America. They're a marching band, lots of drums, trumpets, called What Cheer Brigade.
Okay.
And they got involved with a guy who did hip hop, and they came over and did a show with him. And everyone stood at the front waiting for the band to come on stage, and they came from the back, and they marched straight into the middle and literally pushed everyone out into a circle and were just going around. And so you'd be stood here, and there's a guy just drumming. It was like the power and the feeling from it was just so immense. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. You are genuinely being part of it. You know, the whole thing will turn into a unity. Yeah. And that is
to the point where the band leader at one point turned to me, because he was like shouting directions at everyone, and he turned to me and went, hang on, you're not in the band. It's just like, confusion, I suppose, is the best way to describe it.
beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, do you think you could survive on a Viking Age diet?
I know.
Yeah.
I tried. And I have a connection also to the north. Of course, I live in Denmark and everything. I've been to Iceland, been to the Faroe Islands quite a bit, and tried the traditional food there. So I think I could do it. Yes, and I also had stretches when you go on the markets there, where you just live like it for a while, live like the Vikings for a while, and yeah. But that will probably bring to the next question.
Yes. Yeah. So is there any food you'd miss on a Viking Age diet? I thought you were going to say no because you fast and things. I thought maybe.
Yeah. Of course, the fasting helps because the moment you go out of fasting, everything that comes along is just amazing. Yeah. But there would be things I would greatly miss. Yes, oat milk, for example.
Yeah.
Tomatoes. I mean, like tomatoes wouldn't be there, and there's certain types of cheese that I like very much that most probably would not be available in the Viking Age. But then again, I'm also pretty sure I'm traveling a lot, and whenever you go, or whenever I go to a different country, I like to experience the local cuisine, and of course there's certain things not available that you are used to at home, but at the same time you would experience something else, which is it's new, it's amazing, different types of meat, different types of vegetables, different types of fruit and everything. And I think that would be the same thing in the Viking Age. There would be some things that I for sure know would be absolutely disgusting for my taste, right? But I went through it on the Faroe Islands and in Iceland, so it's fine. But there would also be other things that I would absolutely love. For example, I remember in Fotevik in Sweden, there was a lady and she had reconstructed salts and spice mixes from the Viking Age that they found in pots leftovers, and some of it, the one she called örtsalt, is just absolutely amazing. The only thing you need is a little piece of butter, bread, and that spice mix, and it's like, give it to me.
I think I went to Fotevik last year. We drove up to Norway.
Yeah.
And we went across the bridge from Denmark, and it's just under. Yeah.
Exactly there. Yeah.
We had an incident there. My wife has a dairy allergy, and she ordered some lunch, didn't ask about dairy, ate it, and she ended up in an ambulance, unfortunately.
Oy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Her throat was swelling up and stuff. It was terrifying.
Yeah, I can
But
imagine.
this one was there as well, and I was trying to keep her entertained. Yeah.
Wow.
Luckily, it was all right. And, So whenever I think of that place, like, hang on, there's like a negative for me. It shouldn't be.
Yeah,
it wasn't their fault, but
happens.
Yeah. Okay, so next question might seem a bit strange, but what's the weirdest thing in your kitchen?
The weirdest thing in my kitchen is something that, if you don't know anything about it, it would look very normal to you, and it's a little mortar. And that you use for spice grinding and everything, but in that little mortar there is some kind of gray stuff that just does not go away anymore. I washed it and I scrubbed it many times for many years, but it stays in there.
Yeah.
And that mortar I used back then exclusively. Like now I don't make tattoos anymore, but from time to time there were people coming to me and they had ashes from a passed away member of the family.
Oh wow.
And I used this mortar to grind the ashes fine enough to mix them in the tattoo ink so that they could have their ancestors with them all the time. And that left this gray layer in the mortar, and it does not go away anymore.
There's a layer of ancestors.
Yes, it's a layer of human ashes.
I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing that. Is that common? Do lots of people ask for that?
From time to time. Yeah, people ask me that, and of course, that is not everyone doing it. A lot of people think this is like completely crazy and completely creepy, but I think that's very natural, because I mean, like, Also, when you go back in the old cultures, that like to have human remains worked into ritual objects or whatever, Tibetan Buddhism, for example, is the most normal thing in the world, right? But nowadays, although we call ourselves like deliberated and pagan or whatever, but there's a lot of Christianity still in us. And of course, for Christian people, you can do relics maybe, but they go to the church and they stay there, right? Do not play around with human remains otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So I think like for our ancestors, it was completely normal to keep a head somewhere, or Why
Have
not?
you ever seen the church in just outside Prague? And they've got all the human remains from, I think they ran out of space during the Black Death or something.
Plague.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they ran out of space, so they started putting the bodies.
But still,
I'm making chandeliers.
I haven't seen it. I know about it, but I have seen similar things, all related from that period. But again, they're all in Christian relation, all in church relation.
Yeah.
So human remains, they have to be handled there. You know, like.
I guess something sacred about it. It's just
also the concept of sacredness. You know, what is sacred? Are you actually allowed to have sacredness at home or in your body even? Or is that something that is closely related to the people that are also in power?
Yeah. Okay, next question. What's the worst thing you've ever eaten? Or drunk? A few people go down the drink line.
Traditional Faroese and Icelandic food.
Just in general.
Imagine you kill a whale, which is awful enough these days, right? Then you cut the blubber in small dices and you leave it out to rot for half a year.
That's it.
Is awful.
They do a lot of things like that. We've done fermented shark and things on the podcast before. It's surströmming, so it's not quite the same, but
it's similar. Like the whole concept of half rotten meat and everything is something which is like very weird to us Central Europeans these days. But I would guess that it was more regular back in the days, also because I mean, like, you don't let anything go to waste. That's just what it is, because there's a lot of, like, nowadays we just go in the supermarket and buy whatever, right? But if you have to raise the animal, kill it, you know, and like there's so much effort involved in it, and also hunting big game, not only whale but also like other game, like to hunt it, to make the arrow, to know the whole science, when are they where, you know, like, and it's also not given that you have success, you know. So like I'm pretty sure that fermented, dried, in any way half rotten or 3/4 rotten stuff was quite normal for us. And it's also like disgust I perceive as an instinct, but the triggers for the disgust, they are taught to you by culture. So Faroese people, for example, they make this traditional food, and I, as a Central European, I come in the room and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, oh my God. And other people are coming in from the Faroe Islands, they open the door there, oh my God, this smells amazing. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So next question is, what's the most memorable meal you've ever had?
I would say the most memorable meal I ever had on the good side was, I don't remember his name, but that was on Lofoten in northern Norway, and there was a man, he did a PhD on medieval food, and he did a recipe that somehow comes from the early medieval time or Viking age, I'm not even sure.
Is it Daniel Serra?
I don't remember. No, like, I really don't remember.
I had him on in the past.
But what he did, he made a huge fire in a pit, and then he had lambs, tiny sheep, and they were filled with turnips and spices and everything, and he wrapped them in clay, and then he put them in the ground, covered the whole thing up, and it was in there overnight, and already like when they came out and he cracked the shell, you could smell already this is something amazing, and it was really, really, really good. You know, it was really good. One of I will never forget that.
Yeah. Good. One more question. So the premise is you've died, and your family and friends are preparing your grave goods. What food and drink do you get to take to feast in Valhalla?
No traditional Icelandic food, please.
They're going to chuck all that in there. You can have it.
No, I don't know. Give me some coffee, give me some tea, some cheese, some bread. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast and for your time today. Is there anything that you'd like to plug before we go?
Yeah, I would like to say, of course, thank you to you, but also to Jim and Kat Glazert from Asgard, and because they made it possible for the first time to have the clothing brand Old Norse in an actual physical shop. And I would also invite you to just come by and check it out in New York. And the website is old-norse.com, and there you also find all the links to find everything.
Do you need to plug your social medias as well, or?
No. No. It's okay.
All right. I'll pop some links underneath the video and everything as well, so if you want to click a link and go straight to Asgard shop, you can make all your purchases from there. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you everyone for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed the show and want to hear more, remember to like and subscribe and give the show a rating. You can also help keep the show going by becoming a Patreon, where you'll get early access to all episodes. Or check out my range of merch on my store. Links are in the episode description. Thanks for watching.